Alright guys, hey, we have another special guest with us today. This is one of my kitties, Emma. She is here to listen to chapters 7 and 8. When we left off, George Washington was very angry that Jack and Annie had snuck onto his boat, and you guys had some great comments about your predictions. So let's read to find out what George Washington's response is to Jack and Annie sneaking on there. Chapter 7, Spies. "What are you doing here?" George Washington asked. The commander-in-chief sounded furious. "We made a mistake," Jack said. We didn't mean to come." George Washington turned to the rowers. "Who let these children sneak aboard?" he asked in a stern voice. The men looked at Jack and Annie with surprise. "It's not their fault," Annie said quickly. "They were working too hard to notice us." Just then, the boat banged against the ice. The ice cracked. The boat moved on and then bumped against the shore. George Washington looked at Jack and Annie. "This boat is returning to get more men," he said. "When it does, you two will get out and stay on the other shore." "Yes, sir," said Jack. He felt very embarrassed. George Washington then gave orders to the rowers. "Make sure these children do not board any other boats when you return," he said. The general stepped onto the riverbank. The wind started to pick up. The snow fell harder. As the crew unloaded the boat, neither Jack nor Annie spoke. Jack was miserable. They had caused trouble for George Washington just when the general was trying to make America an independent nation. Jack desperately wished he and Annie had gone home earlier. They watched more and more boats land on the riverbank. As the soldiers unloaded their weapons and horses, a freezing rain began. Now rain, snow, and sleet fell together. Jack heard George Washington call to one of his men. "This storm is getting worse, Major," the general said. "Yes, sir," the major said. "I think we're in for a blizzard," said Washington. "Yes, sir." "Our mission may be hopeless, sir," said the major. "Should we call it off?" "No, you shouldn't," Jack whispered. "You're going to win." "Should we turn back, sir?" the major said. No, said Annie. She stood up. The boat rocked. "Don't turn back, George Washington, sir," she shouted. "You have to march on, sir. You have to attack the Hessians, sir." "Shh." Jack tried to pull Annie back down. "We're not supposed to know about their secret mission." "How does she know our plans, Major?" George Washington asked. "Listen to us, sir," said Annie. "You're going to win." She pulled away from Jack and jumped out of the boat. "Annie!" Jack leaped onto the riverbank. He scrambled after Annie and up the steep, icy slope. "You have to lead your men, General Washington, sir," Annie said. "The Hessians will be surprised. They think no army will be marching on a night like this." "How do you know all this?" the major shouted above the storm. "How do you know what the Hessians are doing and thinking?" For once, Annie seemed at a loss for words. "She just guessed," said Jack. Just then, the bearded soldier who had yelled at Jack earlier stepped forward. "I saw this boy earlier," he said. "He was writing things down." "No, I was just—" Now Jack was at a loss for words. "Seize them," the major shouted. "They're spies." These are the times. Chapter 8. Jack grabbed Annie's hand. "We're not spies," he said. He whirled around to face George Washington. "General Washington, remember those words you said to your men?" Jack said. "You should believe them yourself, sir." "What are you talking about?" George Washington asked. Jack yanked the captain's letter from his bag. By the light of the lamp, he read the words the captain had copied for his children. "These are the times that try men's souls," Jack read. "But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and women. The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph." Jack looked at George Washington. "Even if things look impossible, you should keep going, sir," he said. "The harder things seem, the greater the triumph, right? That's what you read to your men. You have to keep going for their sake." "Yes, and you have to keep going for our sake," said Annie. "For the sake of the future children of America, sir." As the wet snow hissed about them, George Washington stared a long moment at Jack and Annie. Finally, he put a hand on each of their shoulders. "I don't know who you are," he said. "I do not know how you know what you know, but I believe you. For your sake and for the future children of America, we will march on." "Yay!" cried Annie. "Yay!" said Jack softly. He sighed with relief and put away the captain's letter. "Now get back in the boat," said George Washington. "You must leave the fighting to us, to me and my men." Jack felt very grateful to George Washington and his whole army. They were risking their lives for all of America's children, past and future. He could barely speak. "Thank you, sir," said Annie. "Thank you both for telling me to listen to my own advice," said George Washington. He called the rowers waiting in the boat. "Take good care of these two." George Washington climbed onto his horse. He looked down at Jack and Annie. "Merry Christmas," he said. Then the commander-in-chief rode away into the stormy darkness. All right, guys. Chapter 9. Tomorrow we're reading our last 2 chapters of this book. Comment in the comment section below. Tell me what's going to happen next. What do you think's going on? All right, make sure you keep everything nice and sweet, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow.